مساء الخير جميعا، حياكم الله. مرحبا بكم في سواء افتراضيا أو شخصيا في بيت الأمم المتحدة في بيروت، الإسكوا، اللجنة الإقليمية والاقتصادية لغربي آسيا. هذه الجلسة تعقد في خضم المؤتمر الإقليمي العربي للتنمية المستدامة الذي عقد من اليوم ويخلص إن شاء الله في هذه اليوم. وهذه الجلسة ستركز على تمكين الاقتصاد الدائري للكربون، خاصة في مجال الصناعة وخاصة في مجالات يعني البتروكيميكال وصناعة الصلب وصناعات كثيرة الاستخدام للطاقة مثل الإسمنت والصلب والإنتاج الكيميائي. الجلسة ستعقد لمدة 90 دقيقة باللغتين العربية والإنجليزية، واسمحوا لي حتى يعني نفوت نستعمل اللغة الإنجليزية هلا، وأي حدا يحتاج اللغة العربية أنا يعني حنستعمل اللغتين على حسب المتحدث وعلى حسب الأسئلة. Good afternoon or good morning wherever you are. Welcome to the UN House, and thanks for joining us in this side event, which is organized within the framework of the Arab Forum for Sustainable Development. It's intent to look at how we can implement and speed the upscaling of the circular carbon economy framework within key industrial sectors, specifically the cement, petrochemicals, and the steel sectors. The intention is certainly look at it not only from the climate perspective, most important is look at it in an integrated approach to support the sustainable development agenda and to support all countries to achieve a just, inclusive energy transition or the transformation of the energy system over the coming decades. For that, in order that I don't basically give much more context to the session, because we have the privilege to have with us Her Royal Highness Princess Mashal Al Saud. She is still leading and implementing the circular carbon economy as a key framework in looking to the sustainability of the key economic sectors, and more importantly, the decarbonization of the oil and gas, but also all the energy-intensive sectors. And without further ado, I would like to give the floor to Princess Mashal. Princess Mashal, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Shadia. Good afternoon, everyone. And as you can see from the shades on my face, it's nearing sundown here in Riyadh. So allow me to first start by saying hello to all of the fellow advocates of sustainability in the Arab world, friends from around the world. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm very grateful to our host for inviting me to discuss the circular carbon economy, as we call it, CCE, framework, and its role in achieving a more sustainable future. But maybe allow me to start by reminding ourselves that as we're tackling the multiple crises and as we're trying to achieve the sustainable development goals and targets, we're not only facing climate change, but we're also facing a biodiversity loss unseen before the age of the dinosaurs, as well as a massive overflow of pollution within our region and throughout the world. So while climate change is a pressing issue, it's imperative for us to take pragmatic action to mitigate all of the effects of these three crises, all while ensuring just economic transition and social mobility for people around the world. So right here in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, we've set forth a 2060 net zero target in line with what I like to call the Bedouin philosophy of under-committing and over-delivering, providing sufficient time to implement the circular carbon economy framework, all while creating symbiotic regional and global interconnectivity, but to do so with care, prudence, and a focus on building local capacities, all while empowering the workforce. So I like to always say, maybe when you come to Saudi Arabia, you get a sense of the energy and the pace of the change that's happening. So I have no doubt that we'll be able to achieve it in a much shorter time frame. So what is the circular carbon economy framework that we're talking about? Well, in essence, it's rooted in the principles of the circular economy, transforming linear systems into circular ones that emulate nature's biological cycles. It endorses an integrated approach, as our colleague Rabia has just mentioned, that considers all aspects of managing carbon throughout the system, and in consideration of differentiated industrial, economic, environmental, political, geopolitical, and social factors. The CCE framework focuses on carbon and within its 4 Rs, the reduce, the reuse, the recycle, and remove. And maybe allow me to define each of them to elaborate on the meaning. By reduce, quite simply, reduction of the amount or concentrations of carbon-based greenhouse gases emitted into the atmosphere, So within that, primarily a big focus on renewables, energy efficiency, and all other tools in the tool set of the policymaker and the decision maker. The second is reuse by reusing carbon-based greenhouse gases without changing its chemistry. Recycling carbon works by recycling greenhouse gases products containing GHGs into either similar or different products with different chemical characteristics. And most importantly, when we're thinking about resident emissions in our atmosphere, we need to be considering the removal of carbon-based greenhouse gases from the system, be it partially or fully by carbon banking or carbon storage. So why is it worth taking such a considered and integrated approach, irrespective of what we might call it? We might call it the circular carbon economy in Saudi Arabia. We're seeing a lot of change happening in the United States with the IRA, a lot of positive progression in Europe with the Green Deal, and a lot of it falls within the tenets of the circular carbon economy. But why is it important to rethink of this integration in the approach? Well, first, the inertia in our systems, if we're thinking about the transportation sector, buildings, power, or heavy industry, there's so much inertia that the change and shift will continue to contribute to increased emissions. So we must choose a path that confronts emissions reductions while guaranteeing equity and social and economic mobility. Special consideration for certain hard to decarbonize sectors is equally of importance. So if we're thinking about agriculture and land use and the emissions of around roughly 23% of greenhouse gases that it emits into the system, we might seek solutions that mitigate these effects of these activities. And then there's the scale of the R&D financing gap that we need to be bridging. So the IEA estimates a number of around $65 billion to reach its own pathway of net zero by 2050. But there are differentiated pathways around the globe, pathways that require different technologies to be able to reach. And we need to do all of this with a lower time spent commercializing products by around 20%. And there needs to be a reminder that there's a huge difference between invention and innovation. But sometimes a need to reach innovation is not necessarily a foregone conclusion. To achieve our SDG goals and targets in its full scope, and if we want to reflect primarily on the SDG goal number 7, for example, that ensures energy access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all. But if we really reflect on that last bit, the modern access to energy, and we zoom down and drill down a bit, if we're thinking about it per person per year, what we're now allocating as modern access to energy amounts to what Americans use on average 50 kilowatt hours in about 33 hours. So what we're essentially sending in terms of a message to the rest of the world is that we are entrenching further systematic energy poverty, and we're doing so without even considering the right for those countries to develop and to have development industries that are in alignment with their own sets of endowments. So achieving energy justice is critical, but we have to remember that we need to do so in a way that ensures our climate goals and meeting our crises, the biodiversity loss and pollution at the same time. And resources as well that could be tapped into could either be tapped into in an unsustainable manner, but there could be a differentiated manner that could take all of the above into consideration. Now I'll come to the why not. What's the value proposition inherent to the CCE framework? It equally offers a unique opportunity for global collaboration to meet all of these broad and intense targets. For example, in the MENA region, if we're looking at the significant carbon reserves and the large industrial base in the energy sector, something like the circular carbon economy framework is almost a no-brainer. And Saudi, in recognition of that, has launched a lot of efforts, not only looking within as the Saudi Green Initiative mandates, but looking without with the Middle East Green Initiative as an excellent example of regional leadership and how we could be building bridges to work together. So by working together, the region can create a sustainable circular economy that offers significant job creation opportunities, particularly in sectors like we're going to hear from our colleagues in the cement, steel, and petrochemicals. And I'll give a few examples in each. Maybe with the cement sector, we could imagine creating jobs through recycling of waste materials, such as fly ash, blast furnace slag, etc. If we're thinking about the steel industry and the difficulty with which we need to be tackling a massive reduction in emissions, as well as the recycling of steel waste and scrap metal. Then there's the petrochemical sector, where innovative business models need to be thought and explored. So in Saudi Arabia, we're creating CCUS hubs like that in Jubail of 9 million tons by 2027. And we've heard a few months ago from the Minister of Energy that the demand and the ask to go beyond that is already being demanded by different players within the ecosystem. So the demand is there if we provide the right kind of pathways for people to imagine it. So what would this require? The implementation of the circular carbon economy framework requires an in-depth collective effort and honestly a willingness to challenge current economic and political systems that prioritize short-term gains, short-term goals, short-term messages, as opposed to the longer-term sustainability. What we really require is clarity, consistency, and inclusion to achieve these common goals. And maybe I'll emphasize a bit more on the work together as a collective, as a we, to address these triple planetary crises, as opposed to the solitary I. Each country will have its own pathway, but the right pathway will require us to work together, emphasis on the together. And we should also be thinking about comprehensive responses to these intricate challenges, because sometimes trying to address one aspect of the equation does not necessarily meet the goal or target for the other. So what's a policy pathway forward? Government must prioritize policies that encourage industries to adopt circular production and consumption models. These policies are not going to come overnight and would require a reiterative process until we reach the right kind of balance. They should be extending producer responsibility programs, things like eco-labeling, or maybe procurement conditionalities to meet those goals and targets, and elevating the role that government could be playing within the system. The development of closed-loop systems through these policies will reduce waste and pollution. But to date, I have to say, there's no circular economy model that exists operating at the level that is needed or required, let alone a circular carbon economy. So the word circularity requires a lot of working together collectively towards meeting those goals and priorities. We must also think about the improvement of resource efficiencies. And primarily, I think, when it comes to the local communities, ensuring that they find that they have a voice and an active role within this system. So I always like to say we need to go beyond making the world less bad towards actively making it more good. And there we say, find economic incentives in the active action of repairing our planet. We can advance towards a circular economy that is regenerative, equitable, and resilient. Resilient is a very key word in this process, because when we hear about these energy transitions, we think it's a simple, smooth act of scaling up and scaling down systems, when in reality, it's a complete redefinition of the system itself. And last, if you may allow me in conclusion, to focus on the key message of today, of what are we really trying to do or solve for? We need to be doing what we could be achieving today together and increase that kind of process collectively as we build confidence, as we try to tackle these very big challenges. The circular carbon economy framework provides a pathway forward to a more sustainable future. But let me reiterate, us embracing pragmatism in action within the short timeline will allow us to achieve really bold ambitions in the longer run as we face these triple planetary threats. So with that, thank you again for the opportunity, and I'm happy to join my colleagues for the conversation afterwards.
Thank you very much, Your Highness, for this excellent introductory remark. And I would not repeat your key messages. They will be certainly the one that will take as outcome of the session. I just took into consideration when we speak about invention and innovation and working together collectively and systematic opportunities that we can see specifically from the regional collaboration that and the leadership that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is providing when we speak about the circular carbon economy. As a reminder, the session is in Arabic and English, jointly organized by our partner organization UNIDO, and in order just to take certain examples from the region, specifically with a member of the GCC, starting by Mr. Fadl Zayed, and Fadl Ahmed. He's the project lead engineer Emirates Steel Arkan, United Arab Emirates. حياك الله. And certainly we wanted to see from the perspective of United Arab Emirates the way that the decarbonization pathway of the steel industry is moving forward within the framework of the circular carbon economy, and the way also this fits with the agenda and the target by 2050 of the net zero set by the United Arab Emirates. Over to you, Fadl.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. First of all, I'm very happy to be part of the panel right now on the discussion. To start with, first of all, our company, Emirates Steel Can, is actually a merged company. So merged happened back in April, and now we are a group. So we are Emirates Steel Can. We are a group of industries. We have the steel industry, cement industry, plastics, pipes, and bags. Let us talk about the steel industry to start with. So, let's talk about the challenges actually of the steel industry. Some of the challenges of the steel industry in terms of decarbonization. The steel industry actually right now has no level playing field in terms of regularities and compliances. So let's say I, as a company, have set a goal to decarbonize. These regularities and compliances still do not take into consideration the different type of steel production. As we know, steel production comes from many different routes. You have the scrap route, which is already much more decarbonized than iron ore route. And the iron ore route itself has two different routes. You have the blast furnace route, as well as the DRI electric arc furnace route, which we are currently using. So the regulations and the compliances right now are still not yet trying to differentiate between these these all type of technologies. So when we decarbonize, creating a strategy based on specific regularities and compliance is still not very much clear. Now, we also have to put in mind that up until now, there are no technologies that are yet up to scale or proven for us to decarbonize. So we did do studies, we have everything there, but is there anything up to scale? Up until now, not really. Do I really want to be the first one to go to decarbonize through these technologies? Maybe yes, maybe don't. It will all depend on the commercial feasibility of the project itself. Because at the end, we are a business and really go bankrupt. So the way we think of it, Emirates Steel or Emirates Steel, is it should all be transitional and incremental. So it's always a step-by-step journey. So I have a mentor who always used to say, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. So let us start step by step. And this is how it comes. This is how I like to touch upon hydrogen. So when we come to decarbonization of the steel industry, let us first benchmark ourselves. So when we benchmark ourselves, let us divide our carbon emissions into different sections. Of course, the scope 1, scope 2, and 3. The scope 1 and scope 2 and scope 3. What causes them to be high? And this is where we create our own lever. In my company, how we think about it, let's say for scope 1, we have to create our own levers. We have carbon capture, we have hydrogen, we have the green electricity or the electrification, we have the energy efficiency, and we have the recyclability, the use of scrap and recyclables. The use of hydrogen, in my opinion, is very important. It is the best in decarbonizing our industry right now. However, the availability of green hydrogen at this point is not yet there. So my need one of my plants only almost 140 to 150,000 tons of hydrogen a year, which is equivalent to 2 gigawatts, 3 gigawatts electricity. Am I able to get this? I don't think I can right now. So this is an issue. And this is where we talk about transition. First, it doesn't matter if we start with blue hydrogen, which is ammonia-based hydrogen, or we go to pink hydrogen, which is hydrogen done by nuclear power. So it's a transition. We start with something and then we reach our end, which is the green hydrogen. Now, us as Emirates Steel Arcan, I am very proud to be that we are the first company in the Middle East to actually have a carbon capture facility inside our plant. So we actually do have a carbon capture facility, and we capture 800,000 tons of carbon a year. And this carbon capture, this captured carbon is what we give to a sister company within the UAE called ADNOC, where they used it for enhanced oil recovery. Now, this is where the regularities and the compliance is coming from. So we actually did this carbon capture back in 2016. So we were even much before the idea of decarbonization right now or the path to net zero. We were there and we always put this in mind. However, now the regulators and compliances are not really accepting the idea of enhanced oil recovery. And if it's not accepted, what can we do? I really don't have a lot of options to sequestrate. I don't have options to reuse it. I don't have to mineralize it, or all of these things. So again, going back to it, it's a step by step. I think regularities and compliances, which are our major challenge right now, should be lenient somehow to accept transitional moves into decarbonization and sustainability. And this is where circular economy comes in. Us as a company, we capture the carbon and we keep it within our company, within our country. We use it to get out oil from the fields within our country. We use the carbon for manufacturing or existing production. And if you think of it, the beauty of this enhanced oil recovery, in my opinion, is that it mitigates the use of natural gas, and we instead of it, we use carbon. True that we are getting oil out of it, but it's still helping us by reducing the natural gas consumption. That's one thing. Coming back to circular economy, us as a country, as UAE, which actually triggers everything within the whole industry of the UAE, not just industry Arkan, because they always tell us that this year is the year of sustainability and the year of action. So we have to all act. Now, to action, all of the companies right now in the UAE are trying to create renewable energies and hydrogen. I don't know if you guys heard, we have huge companies doing huge projects such as Masdar, for example, Taka, all of these companies that are producing hydrogen and hydrogen for us. We're trying to utilize them in the industry or the manufacturing industry because transportation is still little, or hydrogen is still difficult. So what we can do is we can utilize this hydrogen within our industry to export, because we already export a lot to outside. We export to like 70 countries. So we can use this hydrogen to create our what do you call them, our product, and export our products that contains hydrogen, that was produced from hydrogen, and that is actually fossil free. It's out. I can't say it's green steel because there's no actual definition of green steel yet, and this is another problem that we have. Everyone talks about green steel, but what is the definition of it? So we can transport, we can send low carbon steel. This is how I call it, no green steel, using our existing hydrogen that was made locally. And in my opinion, when we talk about economy right now, I don't think we talk about an economy as a country. Let us talk about regions. So look at the MENA region. The MENA region itself is the hub for the hydrogen, in my opinion. It's the hub for the carbon capture. It's hub for everything. So I think we should enhance this. We should, let's say, motivate this and with this to actually get this happen, use it, and invest in it.
Thank you very much, Al-Fadl, and thanks also for reminding me my visit to Riyadh project, and this was really one of the amazing projects I visited. It shows how the integrated approach between the steel sector and the enhanced oil recovery, and obviously looking to the hydrogen as options. It's not just the option independently of the colors. We're not going to speak about the pink as well as the color. So bear with us. I would like now to move to the other sector, looking to the petrochemical sector. And we have with us Mr. Mohammed Salahuddin Ahmed, he's the General Manager of CD Career, the petrochemicals industry in Seedback in Egypt. Are you with us, Mr. Salahuddin?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, can you put your video on, please?
Yeah, it is required to be done from the host. So please, the host
need
to activate my video.
Can start as they put your video on. So speaking about Egypt, certainly we do have very good experiences both for petrochemical sector, the steel or the cement, but I wanted to hear from your perspective on the petrochemical sector, specifically that Egypt has been leading in looking to different aspects of the circular economy, including reducing, reusing and recycling, although the carbon management technologies were highlighted by our friends from the Gulf region. So can you please reflect on what you see and your from barriers and challenges in terms of looking to the sustainability of the sector?
Yeah, actually, thank you for being here and to answer these questions about the barrier. I will mention some barriers and some actual actions that were taken in my company, Sedbic, as one of the petrochemical companies in producing polyethylene, which is the raw material for plastic industry. So I will mention the barrier and give some examples of how these barriers could be overcome by our actions. I think the first barrier and the most important one is the culture gap. The culture gap, especially in circular economy and climate action, including lack of knowledge, including lack of motivation and experience and so on. So in Sedbic, we have some action to deal with these barriers, including, for example, our learning journey with UNIDO, international experts, through different projects starting in 2013 up till now. From the international experts, we learned about the energy management system, ISO 15001 and motor system optimization, compressed air system optimization, and so on. We also have different measures to cover the culture gap in the sustainability and in other aspects, like some ideas bank. We have ideas bank in our company as a platform on the intranet where employees can share their ideas. We also implemented the knowledge management system in compliance with ISO 30401, which leverages the value of knowledge as one of the company's assets. This is some examples, and also we have participated in SDG Accelerator program provided by UN Global Compact, and getting many benefits from online courses provided in the UN Global Compact Academy. This is about the culture gap. Another barrier could be the ad hoc approach for energy saving and resource efficiency. So we are focusing on the energy management systems, ISO 50001, and focusing on system optimization, as I mentioned, that was supported by UNIDO. Another barrier could be the misconception of sustainability as a burden, because many companies see that sustainability is a burden, which is related to somehow economic and financial misperception. To overcome this, companies should align SDGs with business objectives and focus on the benefits of sustainability and its impact on saving the operational cost. For instance, I always introduce that investment in energy efficiency projects will result in economic growth. The decarbonization will have a real impact on economic growth, and I always focus on SDG 8. Decent work and economic growth when I talk to the business-oriented top management in all companies, because this is the most attractive SDG when talking about business. Another point or another barriers could be the lack of partnership. And in Sedbic, especially with UNIDO, we have a great success stories in this area, as we have developed what we called a peer-to-peer network within sister companies in petrochemical sector. Since 2015 and up till now, we have this kind of peer-to-peer networks where capacity building and technical support programs were provided in the area of energy efficiency to share our knowledge and experience with our peers. And the same peer-to-peer network was replicated in the plastic sector, where the SMEs from the plastic industry need our support as a large company, and they are our customers. So we share with them our experience and give them the required technical support in decarbonization and energy efficiency, so that we help our customers, and the way we are working in the wide scope of the company value chain. Another barrier, let's say, that one related to the need of green finance due to lack of commitment to allocate budget for sustainability. For example, in SIDBIC, after having an effective energy management system, we realized that some advanced energy review is required, but this kind of review should be done by international consultation provider, for example, and this needs some investments. We did it, and we have an advanced energy review using advanced tools like the simulation software and the benchmarking approaches and so on. So to hire such a reputable consultant, this needs to allocate budget, and this couldn't be done without some encouragement from the green finance mechanisms, different funds, to find some funds to support that kind of bold decisions from the companies. The last barrier I want to highlight is the blame approach. For example, with oil and gas industry and petrochemical industry considering oil and gas sector as an enemy for sustainability. We need to work for engagement, not exclusion. We are aware that the threat of gold washing when talking about the measures taken by different companies, but however, I don't believe that we might get rid of fossil fuel and plastic even in 2100.
Yeah,
I like those.
Yeah.
Okay. I am finishing. I like those advocates for defossilization, but I think that they are somehow have some exaggerating in optimism. So this is some barriers, I think, not in Egypt only, but worldwide as well.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for highlighting the work and the support that our sister organization UNIDO is doing. Specifically, you're looking to the challenges that you highlighted in terms of misperception of the sustainability from the economic, social, and environmental aspect, and how this bring at the level of the companies like yours. And I think just to remind that we are in a session of the circular carbon economy that consider that we bridge the gap with fossil fuels and the circularity as a principle for sustainability of the industrial sector. And that's why I would like to hear from also remaining in the Mashriq, but allow me to switch to the Arabic language. مساء الخير الدكتور نائل. الدكتور نائل هو من غرفة التجارة بالأردن، وكذلك اشتغل كثير في مجالات كثيرة خاصة بالإنوفيشن والابتكار والتكنولوجيا. الهدف اليوم دكتور نائل أنه نشوف كيف أنه بالنسبة للأردن، بما أن الأردن كذلك رغم أن الأردن يعني مستورد بالنسبة لبعض يعني الموارد الطبيعية خاصة الغاز الطبيعي للكهرباء على سبيل المثال، لكن الأردن عنده صناعات خاصة في مجال المجالات اللي ذكرت. وحبيت نشوف نتكلم على الاقتصاد الدائري الكربون، وبالتالي نتكلم على القطاع الخاص والصناعة الصغيرة المصغرة، وكذلك كيف أن القطاع الخاص يكون يعني جزء يعني من هذا الباثواي، هذا المجال. تفضل دكتور نائل.
مساء الخير جميعا. احنا يعني خلينا نحكي هون كممثل في غرفة صناعة عمان، اللي بتمثل حوالي تقريبا 80% من الاقتصاد الأردني أو الاقتصاد الصناعي الأردني. أول شيء بحب أحكي يعني بعجالة عن القطاع الصناعي الأردني. في عندنا حوالي 16,000 منشأة صناعية، بتشكل حوالي 96% من هذه المنشآت هي الصناعات الصغيرة والمتوسطة، وعدد الموظفين في القطاع الصناعي ما يقارب حوالي 260,000 عامل وعاملة. تقريبا يشكل 20% من القوى العاملة في المملكة. بنحكي من عدد سكان لا يتجاوز حمل الجنسية الأردنية حوالي 8 ملايين نسمة. الصادرات الأردنية بشكل عام ارتفعت بشكل ملحوظ خلال عام 2022 مقارنة مع 2021 بنسبة حوالي 34%. جزء منها مدفوع بارتفاع الأسعار العالمية، وجزء منها مدفوع في الزيادة في الكميات. طبعا في عندنا صناعات وفي عندنا إعادة تصدير، لكن نحكي التصدير اللي هي حوالي 90% من إجمالية هي صناعات وطنية صناعات في الأردن. وفي عندنا طبعا تفصيل نشرة دورية تخرج اللي هي أبرز الصادرات من الألبسة، المواد الخام، بعض صناعات الأجهزة الكهربائية، الطاقة المتجددة. وهون بحب أحكي عن الطاقة المتجددة في الأردن. أيضا بشكل عام إحنا بنحكي إنها واحدة من أهم قصص النجاح اللي إحنا نفتخر فيها في الأردن. الأردن تعتبر من أعلى دولتين أو 3 دول في العالم في خليط الطاقة الكهربائية، حيث تشكل الطاقة الكهربائية في الأردن حوالي 29% من إجمالي الطاقة تأتي من الطاقة المتجددة. وهون طبعا الأردن لا يوجد فيه سدود مائية، هون نحكي فقط اللي هي الخلايا والألواح الشمسية البي في أو توربينات الرياح الويند توربين. وهي حقيقة قصة يعني خلينا نحكي حتى فنيا صعبة شوي، لأنه يعني إحنا ضمن نطاق لا يوجد ربط كهربائي عظيم مثل أوروبا، يعني ممكن توازن الشبكة، ومع ذلك إحنا بنوصل في بعض ساعات النهار ما يقارب حوالي 90% من طاقتنا المتجددة في بعض الأيام، في طاقتنا الكهربائية المستهلكة هي من الطاقة المتجددة. إذا بنحكي عن القطاع الصناعي، القطاع الصناعي أعتقد الرقم كان مع نهاية 2022 حوالي 800 ميجا وات بي في مقدار الأنظمة الكهربائية من الطاقة المجددة التي تخص القطاع الصناعي، سواء اللي راكبة على المصانع أو ما يسمى بالروفتوب، أو من خلال نظام الويلينج، يعني تكون المزرعة الطاقة الشمسية في مكان والاستهلاك في مكان آخر. وهون بحب أيضا أحكي عن قصة نجاح عملتها الغرفة بالتعاون مع وزارة الطاقة، اللي هي قمنا بمشروع رائد أعتقد ليس له مثيل في العالم في حينه، والآن بدأنا بتنفيذه. إنه جمعنا 86 منشأة صناعية صغيرة ومتوسطة، وقاعدين بنبني لهم مزرعة أو نظام بمقدار 100 محطة طاقة بديلة بمقدارها 125 ميجا وات. وهذا حقيقة شيء فريد إنك تعمل مشروع يمتلكه ويديره بالكامل الصناعيين الصغار والمتوسطين، بعد ما أشرفت الغرفة على انتهائه، يعني من ناحية قانونية ومن ناحية موافقات وتراخيص. وسيخدم زي ما حكيت حوالي 86 مصنع صغير ومتوسط، بعضهم راح يغطي استهلاكه بالكامل، بعضهم راح يغطي جزء من استهلاكه. لكن احنا بشكل عام بنقول احنا يعني في عندنا تحول طاقي كبير، وبالتالي هذا التحول يعني انخفاض في كميات الكربون. طبعا الصناعة في الأردن زيها زي عدد كبير من دول العالم الثالث هي بالمرحلة الأخيرة من الصناعة، أو يعني مرحلة خلينا نحكي ليس تصنيع المواد الخام نفسها، وبالتالي نحن الأقل تلويثا أعتقد إذا مش في المنطقة حتى على مستوى العالم بمؤشرات مقدار انبعاثات الكربون من حجم الإنتاج الصناعي، لأن احنا دائما في مرحلة الصناعة التحويلية. هنا طبعا ما بحكي عن الصناعات الإبداعية اللي معتمدة على الاختراعات، بحكي عن الصناعات التقليدية التحويلية. أيضا عندنا في الأردن إحنا من الدول لا يوجد فيها نفط لا يوجد عندنا غاز إلا يعني شيء بسيط جدا لو تحتاج واحد.
دكتور لو سمحت فقط لضيق الوقت، إذا أنا حبيت نسمع منك دور القطاع الخاص خاصة لما نتكلموا على الاقتصاد الدائري.
يعني وصلت للنقطة. أيوه، فإحنا طبعا الاقتصاد الدائري جزء منه اللي هو تخفيض انبعاث الكربون والتدوير. فلذلك عندنا طبعا موضوع التحول الآن اللي هو لا يوجد عندنا حدا يستخدم الفحم الحجري، احنا بنستخدم الديزل، والآن ننتقل لشبكة وطنية لغرفة تقود جهد مع وزارة الطاقة نتحول للغاز أيضا لتخفيض انبعاثات الكربون بشكل كبير عشان نقدر احنا نحافظ على اقتصاد مستدام ونحقق أهداف اللي وضعناها بالبلد من ضمن القطاع الصناعي بتخفيض كميات الكربون وانبعاثات الكربون. طبعا الجلسة متخصصة لمصانع الإسمنت، احنا في عندنا 5 مصانع إسمنت كبرى في الأردن، وعندنا حوالي 18 مصنع حديد. مصانع الحديد في الأردن الآن تميل أيضا لشراء نحكي لا يوجد عندها مصاهر إلا مصنعين والباقي من المرحلة الأخيرة من التصنيع. الصناعات الكيماوية عندنا نوعين من الصناعات الكيماوية، صناعات تعتمد على الاستخراجية، وهي حقيقة اللي هي راح ننتقل في مرحلة جديدة والآن اللي هي استخدام الهيدروجين الأخضر، والآن يتم تخصيص منطقة في العقبة كبيرة جدا لأن نقدر نستخدم الهيدروجين واللي يسمى جرين أمونيا اللي يستخدم فيه كمدخل إنتاج في كثير من صناعات الأسمدة في الأردن. الآن احنا في إطار وضع تشريعات بعد نجاحنا في التحول الطاقي في الكهرباء، إن شاء الله راح ننتقل أيضا لموضوع الهيدروجين أو الجرين هيدروجين والجرين أمونيا، ونحن في اللمسات الأخيرة يعني بنحكي أقل من أسابيع إن شاء الله راح تصدر التعليمات والتشريعات، في عندنا عدد كثير من الناس مهتمة فيها. لذلك احنا نعتقد إنه المستقبل راح يكون للصناعات في العالم كله هي الصناعات الخضراء، الصناعات اللي راح يحسب فيها البصمة الكربونية. يعني بعد عام 2025 الأسواق لن يسمح دخولها في كثير من الدول خاصة دول العالم الأول ما لم تكن معتنية في ما يسمى بالبصمة الكربونية. وهنا يعني أكيد حضرات الحضور فاهمين شو كلمة كربونية، يعني بصمة كربونية يعني كم مقدار التلوث. لذلك احنا يعني في القطاع الصناعي الأردني وقبل قليل كنا في مباحثات مع معالي وزير البيئة واضعين خطتنا بشكل متسارع لنواكب يعني أفضل الممارسات العالمية. وإذا اطلعنا على مؤشراتنا احنا بالنسبة لعدد أفراد السكان أعتقد كنسبة احنا من أقل الدول انبعاثات في الكربون. فاحنا إن شاء الله قريب راح يصير في عندنا شهادات ما يسمى جرين ستيل، جرين أمونيا، جرين هيدروجين، حتى صناعة الإسمنت تحولها للغاز بدل الوقود الثقيل أو الديزل أيضا كمان راح تساعدنا بشكل كبير. تغطيتنا لحوالي 40% من احتياجاتنا من الكهرباء في القطاع الصناعي تأتي من الطاقة المتجددة، حقيقة رقم إحنا نعتبر نفسنا من أعلى نسب العالم في هذا، أعلى نسب دول العالم في هذا الموضوع.
نعم شكرا سيدي. يعني 40% نتكلموا على الريديوس نقص استعمال الوقود الأحفوري فيما يخص الكهرباء في نطاق الصناعة. كذلك تكلمت سيدي على الأمونيا الأخضر إن شاء الله، الهيدروجين الأخضر كذلك كثير وعود، وكذلك ليس فقط وعود ولكن مشاريع إن شاء الله نشوفها في الأردن. خاصة تكلمتم على بلد اللي فيها ندرة المياه، وكذلك أنه الطاقة المتجددة شافت رواج كثير، ونحن كان عندنا الشرف أن اشتغلنا في الأردن كثير. اسمحوا لي أن أحاول استعمل اللغة الإنجليزية بما أني قبل ما نروح للمغرب العربي عندنا كثير مثال كويس من شقائقنا في المغرب. نتكلم على في السعودية Mr. Faisal الكوروني senior specialist at the Ministry of Energy in Saudi Arabia. Her Highness presented very much Princess Mashal the CCA framework, and certainly the leadership is under the Ministry of Energy of the Kingdom. Looking to certainly to upscale but the implementation, but certainly the challenges. Her Highness did spoke on the implementation of the framework, but I want to hear from you, Faisal, on the challenges for the implementation, since you lead other ministry as a focal point also on the CCE knowledge hub. Over to you, Faisal.
Thank you, Radia, for your introduction. Faisal, I'm sorry for the inconvenience. This is Basra Sbeiti on behalf of Faisal Al-Groni. Thank you for your question. Hello, everyone. It's a delight to be here. Thank you, Radia, for having us in such a fantastic event. The organizers and speakers did a very good job. Regarding the first part of your question, Radia, if accelerating circularity poses challenges to the current economic model in Saudi Arabia. Well, as a matter of fact, we look at the circular carbon economy as an opportunity. And this for many reasons. First of all, the circular carbon economy framework is a pragmatic solution. It's a pragmatic in sense that it addresses climate change without jeopardizing two other important elements: the energy security, and more relevant to your question, Radia, is the economic development. Also, the CCE framework is a holistic approach. It simply considers all the tools in the toolbox and uses them to address the climate change. Take, for instance, the hard-to-abate sectors. Solutions like blue hydrogen and CCUS is there to decarbonize the sectors in a time manner. And I say timely because it's all about time when it comes to combining climate change and combating the climate change. All of these points indicate one important thing. CCE is being a holistic approach that offers more options. And one of the more options we get lower cost and lower risks, which is a crucial to address the climate change. Going to the part of your question is
challenges I want to hear. I want to hear on the challenges of Bassam.
Yes. Going to the part of your question, available support in the region to accelerate the change. Well, Saudi Arabia has launched the Middle East Green Initiative, which is a portfolio to address the challenges in the region and move forward within the region to overcome these challenges, which is under the Middle East Green Initiative, there is the CCE regional collaboration, which aims to support MENA countries to achieve their climate ambition through the CCE framework. In this initiative, we have done a lot of work in the MENA region and the MENA countries. First of all, we have analyzed the NDC of all MENA countries to understand their needs, strengths, and ambitions. Through the NDC analysis, there was followed by bilateral meetings with each country to further understand and verify the results that we have from the NDC analysis. So we have gained useful information from the data we found from each country in the region. We found that there are 4 needs collaboration pillars, which is human capacity building, technical knowledge building, and joint investments and policy dialogues. If we take, for instance, energy efficiency, which is one of the most important technologies under CCE framework, which is under reduce element of the CCE framework, we observe through our analysis that human capacity building is the most demanded pillar in the region among the other 4 pillars. In the last week, we have conducted the first workshop for the CCE regional collaboration, where each representative from the MENA countries came together to discuss energy efficiency challenges and success stories. And we have did a collaboration with the Saudi Energy Efficiency Center to offer a free training course that is very intense and covers various sectors such as energy efficiency in hard-to-abate sectors with significant energy users like boilers and other energy efficiency important pillars such as building envelopes and lighting. This was very much appreciated by the member countries who joined us in the workshop, simply because it's needed for them. Obviously, this does not solve all the challenges, but it's absolutely an easy enabler for them to make a shift in the region. Also, to support human capacity building, we have launched a digital platform that is called the CCE Knowledge Hub. There you may view some reports, technical papers, and important data on CCE in the region that you can absorb currently in the CCE Knowledge Hub. From global data providers, it's still soft launch, but we are aiming to improve and develop the CCE Knowledge Hub.
So you see that thanks for highlighting the regional challenges, and also since you spoke about the capacity building, technical aspect and policies, maybe also worth, in addition to the CCE platform, to speak about the joint collaboration between the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and ESCWA in establishing the regional center in advancing emissions reduction in the region, which we value the collaboration, and hopefully we'll invite all the member states, maybe those in the room today, to join us in the Kingdom, inshallah, in a few months. Now, we certainly, before closing the regional dimension, we're glad and happy to have with us one representative from Maghreb al-Arabi, and glad to have from Morocco, Soufiane Hsina. He's the Business Development Manager, Synergy Maroc, Morocco, and that he will present to us a very critical sector, not only in the region globally, specifically it's linked to the building sector. We speak about the cement sector in Morocco and the decarbonization from a net energy exporting country, where certainly decarbonization had a different pathway than those of oil and gas producers, but the circularity is there. Over to you, Soufiane.
Thank you very much, Your Honesty, Excellence, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to be present and share with you our experience. So I prefer to answer to this question by a presentation explaining our...
Yes, Jan, if you don't mind, please, if you can share first the screen and a presentation, please. Just put it on bigger screen. Yeah.
So is it okay? You can see it? It's okay?
Go ahead, Soufiane.
Great. So my name is Soufiane Hsina. I'm the Business Manager Development Microalgae at Synergy Maroc. We are part of Heidelberg Materials. So, as everybody know, cement manufacturing process is one of major source of CO2 emission in the world, and it is done naturally. Cement production involves the transformation of raw material, such limestone and clay, into cement clinker, which is then the ground to produce cement. So this manufacturing process require the use of a large amount of energy to power the cement kiln. So the CO2 emission originates from two main sources in this process. First source is decarbonation of limestone, which produce calcium oxide and CO2, and it's responsible for 2/3 of emission. And the second is the source of combustion of fossil fuel that contributes of 1/3 of emission of CO2. So the consistence of the flue gas is contain 20% of CO2, and 1 ton of cement produce 60 kilo of CO2. So to reduce the CO2 emission, the cement industry put several strategy and implementation, included the Global Concrete and Cement Association roadmap. So this roadmap includes several key initiatives and targets, such as the reducing direct CO2 emission by 25% per ton of cementous products by 2013, Also reduce indirect CO2 emission from electricity combustion, increase the use of alternative fuel, increase the use of low carbon binder, and support the development of carbon capture and storage technology to achieve this carbon neutrality. So here we have the most advanced project in CCUS are highlighted in this map, forming the top of the pyramid of our CCUS activity around the world. And one of them, as you can see, is CCU in Morocco, with this capacity to capture 50 tons of CO2 per year. And we have a concrete promise that we target to cumulatively capture 10 million tons of CO2 by 2015. Quickly, just to introduce you Ciment du Maroc, we are a subsidiary of Heidelberg Material, the second largest cement manufacturer in Morocco. So we have 3 cement plants certified with the energy management system, 4 grinding centers, 2 in Laayoune in the south, and we have 1 wind farm, and 4 aggregate quarry and 21 country plants located around throughout the kingdom. With this project of CCU, we're using the power of microalgae to capture and use carbon. So before explaining the whole process, just a quick overview of the opportunity market. Here we have 2 points to remember that the turnover of the biomass is about 2.5 billion euro per year, and for a whole production of 150,000 tons per year of dry biomass. And for consumer products, it's a turnover of 13 billion euro per year, and in Europe is about 20 million euro per year. Just to show there is an opportunity on the markets of microalgae. This is some design of microalgae facilities across the world. As you can see, this is the open system, and here we have microalgae production in photoreactor. It's kind of plastic tubes when we grow microalgae. So here we have the design. We design in the plant of Safi, sustainable microalgae farm. As you can see, we are provided by green power from wind power. So this project started in 2019 with the civilian work of more than 1 hectare surface area, and the construction installation utility provided by the cement plant in Safi, such as the flue gas, water, electricity. And since then, a fully equipped for half-hectare cultivation facility had been installed, included the downstream equipment for harvesting, the watering, and drying. So we still in R&D phase, and we are optimizing and stabilizing our production process, and soon we will operate in the full hectare. Just quickly share with you a video explaining the whole process.
Cement Group, a pilot experiment is being conducted at the Ciment du Maroc plant in Safi. In order to reduce CO2 emissions, microalgae are being cultivated and used to capture part of this greenhouse gas. This is a cost-effective way to naturally and biologically recover the carbon dioxide produced during the cement manufacturing process. Concretely, this is how it works. The flue gas from the kiln, which contains CO2, is supplied to the algae cultivation system by a 1 kilometer-long pipeline with a suction fan. The microalgae utilize sunlight and nutrients to take up the CO2 and convert it into biomass. We grow the microalgae in 3 different steps. The first step is the startup kit, which consists of vertical hanging transparent bags. The startup kit is inoculated with 5 liters algal culture. When the microalgae cells are growing, the culture will be fed seawater, nutrients, and CO2, stepwise increasing the volume during approximately 2 weeks to 10 bags of 40 liters. The volume of 400 liters will then be transferred to the runway system, consisting of 8 horizontal bags of 450 liters. After another 2 weeks with the same procedure, the volume has reached approximately 3.6 cubic meter. Now it is ready to be transferred to the field system with larger horizontal bags of 900 liters. By scaling up the volume until approximately 100 cubic meter, during about 4 weeks, the culture would be ready for harvest. The daily analysis of these microalgae is important to record the growth, verify culture status by determining the pH, salinity, and the nutrient levels. It also allows us to detect possible contaminations. The harvested culture is dewatered in 2 steps. First, ultrafiltration, where 80% of the medium is recycled into the process. The second step is centrifugation until the biomass reaches a solid content of approximately 15 to 20%. Subsequently, the concentrated biomass is dried into a fine powder. The whole system is designed as an open-type convective drying system. Fresh air passed through air filters into the furnace by a blower. When heated to desired temperature, the hot air enters the drying chamber equably by a distributor. At the same time, the microalgae slurry will be fed into the centrifugal atomizer by a screw pump, and tiny drops are formed. When these drops get in contact with the hot air, they fall down in a spiral movement. During the falling process, the water will be evaporated and exhausted as vapor by exhaust fan. Then the dried fine powder product is collected by a bottom tower and cyclone separator. There are numerous applications for microalgae: animals' feed, cosmetics, nutraceuticals, and pharmaceuticals, aquaculture, and can be used as biofertilizers or biostimulants. To support.
So thank you for your question. So the CCU project requires a collaboration with other sectors, companies, and this pilot has allowed us to gain extensive experience on the challenge faced in implementation of this project. The national or country organization must adopt new technology and business concept to become carbon neutral. And this microalgae project has shown us how such projects can be developed in coordination between group function and several stakeholders and state parties. And on the technical aspect, diverting a secondary stream of combustion gas for using in a biological process offer new perspective on the technological foundation of CCU. And this approach provides a new opportunity to use exhaust gas effectively and sustainable to other industry as a thermal power plant. Other key message: we are exploring innovative and sustainable solution to address the challenge of climate change. On such solution, our example involved the harnessing the unique ability of microalgae to capture and utilize CO2 from our industrial emission. By developing this innovative business model, we aim not only to reduce greenhouse gas emission, but also to create a new economic opportunity. And as a responsible global corporation, we recognize the urgency to reduce our carbon footprint. To this end, we are implementing a comprehensive strategy to include a wide range of measures to achieve the carbon neutrality. These measures include energy efficiency improvement to use of renewable energy sources, as we already done in Morocco, and also all Moroccan cement factory are using 80% of their energy coming from green energy, from wind and solar plants, and low carbon products. We believe that achieving our carbon neutral goals require also a collaborative effort across different sectors, industry, and state parties. To this end, we actively seek our partnerships and collaboration with other business, government, and stakeholders. Through this collaboration, we aim to develop and implement effective solutions that can have a real impact on the environment and society. Additionally, we are fully committed to invest in research and development to identify and develop innovative solutions for sustainable solution. However, we also recognize the importance of make this solution financially feasible and economically viable. Therefore, we strive to strike a balance between cutting-edge R&D and practical business consideration to ensure that our solutions are both effective and sustainable. And to conclude, we know that the use of microalgae will be a relatively small contributor to our Big Vision CCU target 2013, but locally in Morocco is profitable to operate and has the potential to be a significant CCU merger. And developing such CCU technology, it's a profitable business setup, and it's an extremely useful learning journey for Simon du Maroc and Heidelberg Material. And just to finish, to share with you how really it look like this facility.
Yeah, we should visit certainly if you invite us.
It short less than 1 minute.
Okay. Thank you very much for the very nice show first, and I think the macroalgae farm as a technology that commercially maybe at scale need to be considered in a way that we did when we worked on the circular carbon economy framework. No exhaustive list of technology when it comes to the sector, but certainly this deserves for further consideration and presentation. And I just want to highlight that it's semi-important how you put the reduce and renewable energy above the 80% that you look at from in the sector, and the stakeholder engagement, and more importantly, the partnerships, which currently is also for this year under review. And certainly, I think what is interesting in the macroalgae is the biodiversity, the consideration of the biodiversity aspect, and the integrated approach. Thank you very much, Sofiane, and I think we had very interesting, I would say, insight from the region, and staying on the circular carbon economy framework. And since the business model need to look at the collaboration between the different regions and the reverse knowledge. And glad to have with us Stéphane. Stéphane Buitner, he's the chair of the group of experts on the energy efficiency in our sister organization, the UNECE, and we would like to hear from what we are doing in Europe and the decarbonization project, and how we can learn from your region. And obviously, once it comes to the carbon footprint and circularity, certainly the carbon footprint should be on the whole value chain from producer and consumer. Over to you, Stéphane.
Thank you very much, Radia, and I'm really pleased to be with you today. And I'm also glad what I've heard from all the panelists so far, so I can focus on things that have not so much been mentioned yet, and focus on what the situation is in Europe and the UNECE region, which is the Northern Hemisphere. It's more than geographical Europe, 56 countries, and the situation in the western part of Europe predominantly is driven by an energy price peak, emission pricing systems that increase the costs. there's also huge consumer demand in decarbonizing particularly energy intensive and emission intensive products. So for instance, green steel, how can we reduce the footprint of buildings? There's discussions on resource passports for buildings. We're working on a concept in the ECE region to look into the building supply chain. So not only the energy efficiency of the building anymore, but also the footprint, the carbon emissions that have come into the building through its components, through the way the glass is produced, the cement is produced, the steel is produced. And in order to be able to do that, we need to look at the whole picture. And that is looking at scope 1, 2, and 3. And scope 3 makes up for 90% in most industrial sectors. But let me do this in a different way. The energy intensive industries are one of the greatest emitters globally, with about 1/4 of all CO2 emissions and about 66% of the industry sector's emissions, so cement, iron, steel, as I said, but also chemicals and petrochemicals, which are sharing about 1/4 and a fifth each of the industry's emissions. So decarbonizing those industries is a top priority to attain the carbon neutrality goals and the Paris climate agreements. However, these are embedded into many other industries. So if we want to achieve the real carbon neutrality and a circular carbon economy, we need to see how we thread those sectors into each other. And there we get to the very, very first moment, that is how products are being designed, where the raw materials are being sourced, how the products can be planned to be able to be disassembled or to be reused. And there are some building regulations, for instance, that need to allow the reusing steel for structural elements. Or how can I prepare the product at the very beginning so that it can be put back into the system? And then, of course, the topic of energy itself is also an issue. We need so much more clean energy to power this transition. And just as an example for the global stage, industry's total electricity consumption of globally is 42% of all electricity. However, global low carbon emissions, sorry, that's my CO2 meter. Global carbon emissions, low carbon energy generation is only 36%. So even if industry got all the green energy available, it would not be sufficient for serving a fuel switch. And for overall energy consumption, so including also other sources of energy, it's similar with 19 versus 29%. So that's quite a lot. And what we have done so far with UNECE, but also in collaboration with UNESCO, is that we're uniquely positioned to continue leading this effort together in 2021 during the UN high-level dialogue on energy. ECE mobilized 5 economic commissions to discuss how we can scale up the carbon dioxide removal to achieve climate targets. At COP26, we had a joint follow-up dialogue between the commissions and the executive secretaries of those commissions to discuss how we can bridge the climate finance of that. And the executive secretaries called for enhanced regional cooperation to develop that nature-based and technological solution to capture both CO2 emissions from the atmosphere, ensuring their long-term storage, but also how that can be used as a resource. So this collaboration, we then continued also at the previous COP in Egypt. And we are looking forward to continue to join forces with UNESCO and explore the options how to decarbonize energy intensive industries under the carbon neutrality concept. And that is also a way how we developed solutions, which is a toolkit on carbon neutrality that aims to support both policymakers, but also industrialists to make informed decisions on how we can implement the 2030 agenda on sustainable development and the Paris Agreement. So, and this consists, for example, on technology briefs on CCUS, on hydrogen, on nuclear power, but also on how to decarbonize the energy-intensive industries, how we can, what do you have to keep in mind to allow the technology interplay between the different ingredients? So what is the right mix for which industry at which location? And there, the question of financing is a crucial one, which is why we have also, and that is a beyond the region approach, we are open to collaborate with all regions on that, a methodology to assess the most economic mix of measures depending on local circumstances. That is both for policymakers and entrepreneurs, and have launched also a platform to exchange on industrial decarbonization measures, which is a task force next meeting on the 4th of April. So there's lots of activities in many different areas, but I agree with the previous speakers that we need to think systematic, that we must not forget about SMEs. They need most help, and both financing access, but also this decision within companies, particularly in a situation where everybody strives for getting more resilient, is a key point, because the carbon neutrality toolkit and can really help supporting companies and also countries and other entities with more resilience if the ingredients from the toolkit are being applied. And obviously, we need to also lift that on the systems level. What do we need in terms of infrastructure? Where do we get the clean hydrogen from? The energy generation? How can we interconnect the energy systems to facilitate that transition? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And since you spoke about what our sister organization is doing and to which we contribute, maybe one of the aspects to highlight, since you spoke about the hydrogen, certainly hydrogen needed in the energy security in Europe will depend on the MENA region, and obviously the circularity needs much more partnerships and access to technology and specifically to finance. Due to the lack of time, I would like to give much more time to my colleague Rana. Rana, since you were overseeing the whole session, looking to the regional and country perspective, looking to the world, but also at UNID, you are doing leading and looking to the energy system and infrastructure, specifically on the decarbonization, how you see from the regional and global perspective, the collaboration and how the enablers in order to make the circular carbon economy as a framework that would support the member states in the region to upscale and move forward in the net zero target. Over to you, Rana.
Great, thank you, Radia, and thanks to ESCO also for partnering with us on organizing this very interesting event. I would have loved to be in Beirut with you live, but happy to join at least virtually. I guess where I would like to start this is we've heard a lot from different panelists, and it was really quite interesting for me to see the diversity of projects that are coming from the region, you know, from Morocco to Saudi to UAE to Egypt. I think what I see is that there is really this connection to what we are seeing at the global level. In what sense? In a sense that, you know, energy efficiency and renewables are one of the most promising solutions to reduce carbon intensity of the industrial sector. And in that sense, we saw some of the examples that are coming from the region, and we really need to accelerate the speed and scale of the deployment of renewable energy and energy efficiency. At the same time, there's like very promising breakthrough technologies like CCUS and hydrogen, which are, although they're very promising, they remain really not yet at a commercial scale available, and this is a challenge that we need to collectively work on together and to bring international collaboration to foster and push towards the full commercialization of these technologies. And then the third dimension is actually how do we create new technologies, because obviously there are some new technologies that are yet to be developed and where there is significant potential for research and development as well as entrepreneurship to bring new technologies to help in the decarbonization of this sector. So we saw that breadth of technologies also from the descriptions of the different companies that presented, but then we saw also some critical challenges that I believe can only really be solved if we work better on international collaboration. And how? For example, the representative from the Emirates who spoke about steel referred to standards and definitions, and the fact that we don't necessarily have at the moment even standards that really define what green steel or in some cases also we talk about green cement and concrete are. And of course this is an issue, and this is where UNIDO is leading under the Industrial Deep Decarbonization Initiative on the harmonization of standards, because what we see at the moment is that many companies as well as countries are starting up their own, or even regions starting up their own systems for definitions and standards for these products. But at the end of the day, we are also talking about products that are globally traded. And so we need to have a common benchmark for which under which we compare these different standards and definitions. And what we are actually doing and encouraging is moving away from color codes. So it's not about green, pink, blue, whatever. It's really more about the embodied carbon emissions and having harmonized definitions and methodologies for looking into carbon content across the different scopes of the product manufacturing. Another element, and I saw actually in the chat and the Q&A coming, is like, okay, I mean, how does this become profitable? And this is where, regional collaboration, international collaboration is also important, because we can achieve better economies of scale if we look at the topics more from a regional and international dimension. And in that aspect, I think one point is, do we have the same level playing field for all technologies? We know very well that actually there have been use of subsidies across the board, particularly for fossil fuels. And if we want to compare different technologies equally, we really need to look into how subsidies are channeled and how new incentives can be created, pretty much like Her Royal Highness mentioned in the beginning. We see that the US and Europe really moving towards subsidies that are, or incentives that are given more to strengthen the industrial sector in clean technology through the Inflation Reduction Act or the Green Deal Industrial Plan. So how can we actually create that in a way that creates job opportunities also within, so at national level, at regional level, and also globally? Yeah, I mean, I think perhaps also, I know we're coming close to an end, so I'll try to wrap up here and just say that, so in addition to this point on standards, on creation of the common definitions and also the level playing field for the different technologies, we need to find ways to compensate for this green premium. Many of these first adopters are really paying quite a lot for the cost of these technologies that are not yet commercialized. And this is where we are again calling for the power of demand. And we see government procurement as a very important leeway, particularly for sectors like steel and cement, because at the end of the day, these are materials that are used very much in the construction sector, and governments in many countries are highly responsible for public construction. And by using procurement and public procurement as a leeway to create demand for these green products, we see a good opportunity to actually reduce the green premium and help companies that are bearing it to actually make a better commercial sense of things. And one last point is the skills dimension. And this is where we see also great opportunities for women and also for youth. We see a change. I mean, when we're talking about the circular carbon economy, when we're talking about hydrogen, we really need to look into the upskilling of the workforce and also looking into what are the upcoming needs for knowledge that we need to create within our systems, be it within universities or even through vocational curricula. And there is particularly a special focus on youth. I'll stop here and I'll give it back over to you, Radia.
This, I think, this is the starting point and not the closing point. To have the partnerships, we spoke about different stakeholders, but the partnership is with the youth. And I think all what you said are the part of the key messages that we vehicled in this session, that started with the Bedouin philosophy as highlighted by Her Royal Highness under the circular carbon economy framework. And one of the key messages that she highlighted is that government must give priority to the policy that encourage the industry to adapt to the circular production, the efficiency. I think what we have seen are excellent examples on the way forward in terms of decarbonization, but circularity. But if I may, just to close the session, because for the sake of time, I've been asked by the organizer in order to close it 5 minutes before, since we are doing the closing of the forum, but I cannot close it without saying maybe some of the key elements that we've taken in addition to what Rana highlighted is that the industry to become more energy efficient in order to drive the sustainability. The path dependency is extremely important and different, and the pathways are different, provided they are sustainable. Collective actions are needed, collaboration at the national, regional level, and international level. Partnerships are extremely important, and be it for capacity building, green financing, but at the same time capacity building through reverse knowledge. And I think the business model Europe, the MENA region, should be strengthened, and collaboration in a way win-win situation as a much more sustainable business model. I cannot add more than what all the speakers highlighted, since all what you said is recorded in a way that will fit to the outcome of the forum. I would like also to apologize for those who posted questions, for those who, the panelists who are able to handle them, that please do. If I may, please ask all the speakers, Her Royal Highness, if you can put your video on to take a snapshot of a group photo, since all of you are virtual and we at the UN House are here at the house. But yeah, maybe in the future we'll meet at the MENA Climate Week, or maybe before, maybe in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, or maybe Vienna and the Vienna Energy Forum, depending where we stand. Please, colleague, if you can take a group photo with all the speakers. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Your Highness, all the panelists and speakers from the region and from Europe, and our sister organization, UNIDO. Thanks, Rana, for being with us. We'll have the outcomes of that, but I want just to highlight that whatever we do under this session is part of the work that we do under the leadership of ESCO, but also the support of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in embedding the circular carbon economy as a framework, not only for oil and gas producers, but more importantly, in the cross-economic sectors, in order to support the region, in order to move forward in the sustainability pathway, but more importantly, all together we can make it. Thank you very much, and thanks, colleague, for all, and good evening for all, and see you soon. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.